Imagine a world where you think you're the only one in the room, watching your screen, the Bitcoin price like a heart monitor, up and down, pulsing, breaking, crashing, surging. And then you find out there was someone else there, always has been, but you never saw them. You never felt their eyes on your dreams. This is not a conspiracy theory. It's not a bedtime story. This is Wall Street. And tonight I want to talk to you about what happens when the people who are supposed to be invisible get caught in the act. Will you listen with me for just a few moments? Because nothing in crypto and nothing in your portfolio will ever feel the same again. Before we continue, take a moment to stay connected so you don't miss future conversations like this when the cracks finally split open. Picture this, the beating heart of American finance. The numbers on the screen are not numbers at all, but lives woven together by fear and hope. For years, behind the scenes, there's been a firm called Jane Street. They made $13 billion in profit last year. That's more money than most of us can picture. They touch every 10th stock trade in North America. They trade, always, relentlessly. But most of us? We never even heard their name. That's by design. Jane Street doesn't court fame. They shun it like a shadow. No tweets, no interviews. Just the cold hum of algorithms slicing through the market like sharp steel. And here's what will chill you to the bone. They've been trading crypto since 2017. The same year, some of us heard about digital gold for the first time. Yesterday, a lawsuit snapped this silence. Filed by Todd Snyder, the man left to sort through the wreckage of Terraform Labs. The name Terraform rings in my mind. The architects behind the ill-fated so-called stablecoin. An entire universe built on an algorithm's promise to stay faithful to the dollar. US, they called it. And Luna, names heavy with lost hope. When they fell, the world lost $40 billion. $40 billion. How many lives, how many broken dreams does that number hide? They call it insider trading and market manipulation. They say it was Jane Street at the center. And maybe, just maybe, Jane Street is the ghost hand behind Bitcoin's slide into pain since last October. If you try to follow this thread, it gets tangled and real quick. The story unfolds not in the daylight, but in the shadowed space between trust and power. Jane Street, authorized participant for BlackRock's EBIT ETF, the silent middleman, the man behind the curtain, able to mint and destroy ETF shares with one call. With that comes weight, leverage, a kind of control. Now, breathe. Stay with me as we trace what happened. A few days ago, an 83-page legal complaint landed in Manhattan's federal court, heavy as a stone. Jane Street, named outright. Bryce Pratt, too, a young man I imagine walking the halls in each world. The intern at Terraform, now at Jane Street. According to the suit, he set up an internal channel, Bryce's secret. A tunnel between old friends and new masters. What flows through such tunnels? Not love, not hope. Information, the kind you weaponize. February, 3 months before everything collapsed, Jane Street reaches out. Pratt reconnects with Terraform's inner circle. And then, May 7th, 2022. Terraform quietly, silently, draws $150 million US out of Curve Finance. The pool that was supposed to hold the world's faith is now shallow, exposed, trembling in the current. And nobody outside Terraform knows, except Jane Street. 10 minutes. That's all it takes for the mask to drop. A wallet linked to Jane Street unloads $85 million US onto those fragile waters. Metaphor. It's like a swimming pool. Everyone floating peacefully. And then a weight drops straight into the shallow end. The peg breaks. Panic does the rest. Within 4 days, the dollar is gone. US hits 35 cents. Within 2 weeks, nothing. 40 billion evaporated, as if hope itself dissolved. The hardest part? The realization that some were ready. Jane Street's wallet swaps US for USDC, wires out $84.5 million. They walk away, heads above water while the rest drown. The lawsuit claims they dodged $200 million in losses, simply for knowing what you were never supposed to know. Even more? Some say it was their move that started the chain collapse, but speculation is sticky. Let's descend a little deeper. Since late last October, a theory has grown like a weed in the cracks. The 10 a.m. dump. Every day, like clockwork, at 10 o'clock Eastern, an avalanche of sell orders. Bitcoin ETFs, down go the prices, stop losses triggered, liquidation sweeping like a cold wind. Who benefits from this pain? The market makers. The ones who buy back when everyone else has fled. All eyes settle on Jane Street, whose authority lets them process most of the ETF's movements. They have the keys to the back door and a reason to wish for chaos. Volatility means profit if your heart is cold enough. But nothing was proven. Not until the world blinked. The lawsuit hits. And suddenly, the pattern breaks. No more sell wall at 10. On that day, Bitcoin soars $2,000 up, while Coinbase's premium flips green for the first time in 2 months. Coincidence? Possible. But the ache of suspicion is hard to ignore. It doesn't stop there. Jane Street's name echoes in other places, distant but unmistakable. Last July, the Indian regulator accused them of manipulating Bank Nifty, the country's biggest stock index. 570 million in unlawful gain, seized, barred from Indian markets. Jane Street fights back. But the judgment sits on the record, a bruise that won't fade. Back in America, the numbers whisper something else. Jane Street, during the worst quarter since FTX's implosion, added 54% more shares to IBIT, over 20 million shares, nearly $800 million worth. Their MicroStrategy stock soared 473%, while BlackRock and Vanguard sold, Jane Street bought. But here's the trick. As an authorized participant, they don't even have to buy the Bitcoin. They can juggle contracts, hedge risks, create the illusion of demand without any real buying. So when you stare at the number on a spreadsheet, when you see 20 million ETF shares, what is it really? Maybe nothing you can touch. One analyst said it perfectly. The question isn't just, does Jane Street suppress Bitcoin, quote, but does this whole ETF structure warp the way we ever see Bitcoin's price? For a moment, let's step outside the courtroom drama, the revenge fantasies, the blame. Let's remember what no one can prove. Leverage and illiquidity built the coffin last October. Not a single villain in a room. Data says the ETF outflows were traders closing their hedge bets, not nervous institutions. Big names like BlackRock and Fidelity, they kept net inflows the whole time. Timelines echo with accusation. 2022. Jane Street allegedly front-runs Terraform's secret. 40 billion lost. Sam Bankman-Fried, founder of FTX, he started at Jane Street. Caroline Ellison 2. Dust settles. Bitcoin is at 25,000. Then, BlackRock files for the ETF. The center of the storm? Jane Street. The ETF stirs a bull run. 25,000 to 126,000. October, another stablecoin death spiral, another 19 billion lost. Bitcoin slumps by half. And Jane Street? 54% more ETFs, right in the eye of chaos. Every chapter, every collapse, every minor miracle, the same silent hands. And suddenly, a lawsuit. The pattern breaks. The bell tolls at 10 a.m. And this time, it's not a dirge. It's a victory. Bitcoin rips. The market gasps for breath. Alive again. I can't tell you this is the bottom. Can't promise you safety. But after so many months of the same sickly pattern, the silence was broken. The invisible became visible. You deserve to know who moves the market in the dark. Now you do. If this perspective resonated with you, stay engaged and keep following the conversation. Take care. And remember, sometimes it's not the shape of the market that changes, but the story you're finally allowed to hear.